My name is Fátima Gebauer, and I'm the chair of the EMBL Alumni Association, at least until December, when new people will come, thanks to the elections. Thanks everyone for participating there. And I will be, the masters of this ceremony. So we are here celebrating the two first EMBL Director Generals. The first one is John Kendrew. So we're going to start with the John Kendrew Award. So this award was launched in 2007 by Konrad Müller on behalf of the EMBL pensioners. And then since 2010 is sponsored by Roland Specker, who is a private philanthropist and a friend of EMBL. Roland Specker is here, and I would like to thank you very much, Roland. You cannot imagine the impact that this award has on the awardees. So the award stands for Excellent Science or Excellent Science Communication after leaving EMBL. There have been 18 awardees so far. I'm not sure if there is a slide there with the awardees. Here you go. And this year, the award goes to Veli Vural Uslu, sitting there, for his contributions to science communication. And he will be introduced by Helke Hillebrand, who was the former Dean of Training at EMBL, and Rüdiger, who is the Dean of the Faculty of Biosciences of the University of Heidelberg. So please come to the stage. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Fátima. Thank you very much all for having us here. So good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon, Veli. You always meet twice in life. In principle, this is a good thing, and sometimes the saying is only stressed in order to suggest that repercussions may occur. But in its best meaning, it holds true for the cohesion of the global EMBL family, and particularly for today's alumni event here in Heidelberg. However, if you were to meet Veli Vural Uslu only at the occasion of award ceremonies in honor of his achievements, you would easily meet him not only twice, but much more often. On top of the pleasure to be back on the EMBL premises today, it is an immense honor for me to be given the opportunity to contribute to celebrating Veli Vural Uslu, to celebrating his cheerful personality, his great achievements, and especially his efforts and breakthroughs in science communication. His relentless engagement extends from inspiring lay as much as expert audiences about the scientific cause, to training scientists in the art of science communication, and to merging science and theater, which is his second profession on top of his career as a researcher. And at this point, I would like to beg your pardon for reading this speech, but I'm really intimidated by the fact that I'm talking for somebody who gets a science communication award. So I thought I better make sure I'm not getting lost. The first time Veli made an unforgettable impression on me was an almost award ceremony back in 2009, when I was in my second year as Dean of Graduate Studies at the EMBL and ran my first spring recruitment. At that time, EMBL enjoyed the privilege to be able to annually award 2 Louis Jantet fellowships to the most outstanding candidates among the 50-ish plus minus successful applicants accepted into the EIPP, the EMBL International PhD program. With this scheme run at the EMBL and a few more selected research places across Europe, the Louis Jantet Foundation was seeking to support with funding and ideational sponsorship promising PhD researchers who were ready to flourish when given the opportunity, meaning that they would be ready to fly when given the right context, the appropriate means, the adequate resources, and generous mentors to nurture their ambition. In short, via the EIPP and others, the foundation was looking for candidates with a sound scientific background and a profound research interest in medically relevant basic research, and who were clearly showing the signs of potential and capacity for a continued ambitious journey of dedication and personal growth. And Veli, back in 2009, and before starting his PhD journey at the EMBL, most beautifully fulfilled all of these criteria. Accordingly, the fellowship was meant to be awarded to Veli on the last day of a pretty intense week of interviews and lectures that were witnessed by a few people here in the room. It's so great to see you all again. A pretty intense week of interviews and lectures that constituted the EIPP recruitment week back then. And when the moment came where Veli was to receive his prize, he wasn't there. So typically Veli, and funny enough, it never had occurred to him that he could be among the awardees or receive special attention. Veli was most likely simply with his new friends, good old friends, and probably reading a paper that morning, but certainly he did not spend any thought about receiving an award. So his new friends found him later in the afternoon, and Veli joined without further ado the EMBL International PhD program in the group of François Spitz in the developmental biology unit led by Anne Frussi, who's also here in the room. I've seen her before. Hi, Anne, and she was the predecessor in the role I had at this time as Dean of Graduate Studies and used to be my mentor throughout this period. For more information about Veli's inspiring journey prior to joining the EMBL, I can only warmly recommend reading the interview published in the 100th edition, congratulations, the 100th edition of EMBL etc. at the occasion of Veli becoming a John Kendrew awardee today. So the next time when he was up for an award ceremony during my time at the EMBL, that was back in 2014, when he had successfully defended his PhD thesis, and when we all together celebrated the success of the class of 2009, again, welcome to this famous row over there, at the occasion of the 2014 EMBL graduation ceremony, then already in this fabulous building, but not for the first time in this fabulous building. Anyway. At both occasions, Veli, end of recruitment week and EMBL graduation ceremony, Veli has been instrumental for the positive vibes within the groups involved and throughout lively party nights, always making sure that everyone in the cohort would really be included. Whenever Veli is involved, the sparkle of joy and novelty ignites. Thanks to his seemingly inexhaustible creativity, combined with great people skills, special moments just occur when he is involved. So look at this scenery here. It was Veli to suggest that my husband Rüdiger and I should jointly participate in this award ceremony, for which we were really surprised and really grateful. And it's a true novelty for us as a couple, since we rarely, and I'm tempted to say never before, really, had a shared duty on stage for such a memorable task. Therefore, thank you, Veli. Thank you for being Veli, and thank you all for bearing with us. And thank you, Rüdiger, for the last 30 years of great companionship, even if not on stage, and for taking over now in order to talk about Veli's scientific journey in your department at Heidelberg University. Veli, all the best.
Thank you very much, Helke. Yeah, very kind. It's a great pleasure to attend here at the EMBL Alumni Day and to help to honor Veli Uslu. I'm not an EMBL alumni and I'm not an EMBL member. So how did I come to know Veli? It was actually 10 years ago when I received an email from a PhD candidate from the François Spitz lab who was interested to work with me on plants. And I should say, I'm a plant biologist by heart, really. And for me, plants are the most important and most exciting organisms on this planet. Sorry, I have to say that here. The past 2 billion years, with the invention of photosynthesis, They shaped our planet, they provide our food, and due to their enormous ecological success, they develop very, very many highly interesting biological traits. So how come that a PhD candidate from mouse genetics interested in transcription in the Spitz lab would be interested to work on plants? I asked my wonderful wife if she knew a guy named Veli Uslu, and she said, sure, of course, I know Veli. Everybody knows Veli. You should talk to him and hear what he wants. So Veli and I met for the first time, and he convinced me that he really wanted to transform from mouse genetics into plant biology. There was a little bit of the convincement was the story of the pomegranate farm of his family, but believe me, Veli can be very convincing. So we agreed to work together. Veli acquired an EMBL long-term fellowship. I borrowed him a book on plant physiology, and off he went. He was very productive in my lab. He acclimated very quickly. He contributed to quite a number of projects. We worked together on the development of live cell imaging sensors. He was instrumental in the discovery of sulfate as a trigger for stomatal closure. You developed on your own the link between target of rapamycin and polycomb repressor complex in plants, and you introduced the link between plant nutrition and histomodification, which I believe eventually led you to epigenetics, and from there, what your current research topic is on RNA-mediated DNA methylation triggered by viruses. Now, you were in the lab all the time, you were very productive, and so I was very surprised to learn that on top of all of these achievements, he was very active in science outreach, in science communication. I learned that he was the founder of the Top Science Theater, bringing together PhD students from all different disciplines in Heidelberg. And I can say that I know at least one marriage from PhD students who met there at your theater. Then one day he asked me for 2 days off. I asked why, and he said, well, you know, I made it to the national final of the FameLab Science Slam competition in Düsseldorf. And Veli went, and Veli won. Fantastic. Then he asked me for 3 days off because he had qualified for the world final. And he went to London, and he really finished with a fantastic second place. And when you have a look at the YouTube videos of his performances, you will understand what I'm talking about. Now, the list of Veli's achievements in science communication is very long and very impressive. I'm not listing it, and he is going to say something about this himself. What I can say is that all of this comes from heart, and he has a great love for science and the people. And I cannot think of any person who would deserve the John Kendrew Award 2023 more than Veli Uslu. Congratulations, Veli.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Ladies and gentlemen, I was going to start the talk in a very energetic way, but now I feel very emotional. Wonderful introductions. Thank you very much. That was lovely. And today I'm not going to use any visuals, any slides, because I thought I do not remember any single slide from these countless talks I attended from EMBL, but I actually remember the details of the gossips very well without the visuals. So I thought, let's make it memorable. So let's do not use any visuals, but let's do this talk like this. And there is something that I really like about the gossips is that when you say something, the other person either gives a response of like a negative response, like, oh, and the other, or like, whoa. So I will maybe do it like a gossip. I'm not going to give you any gossips, unfortunately, but let's give it a try. I will count down from 3 and let's give a negative response. I think it would be nice throughout the talk to have a little bit of mutual conversation. So let's give a negative one, for example, 3, 2, 1, ah, perfect. Or a cheerful one, 3, 2, 1, ah, fantastic. This is you are my crowd. Thank you very much. This is awesome. So I am Veli. I am a group leader in AgroScience Plant Research Institute, and I teach at the university. And I am a science communicator. And whenever I say I'm a science communicator, I'm reminded of my second thesis advisory committee just across the road in room 208. And it was a very stressful talk. And after the talk, Johan Wittbrod just raised his head behind his iPad and he said, Veli, the data is very good, but the presentation is awful. So I looked at Ene Fruzi and Aylin Furlong, interestingly sitting together also today. So just to get a little bit of support, but they clearly supported Johan. It was a really bad presentation. I couldn't even look at my boss's Francois Spitz face. And he came with a very unexpected response. It was emotional support. He said, don't worry about it. We are going to solve it. I will send you to courses. He was so supportive. Then I understood how bad this presentation was. So, and he did actually. So I took a lot of presentation skills courses. And then I learned that presentation skills is not something that you're born with, but these are kind of things that you learn, you adapt to yourself, and then it became fun. And I really enjoy this moment, this you know, being able to talk in front of you. And then I was chasing for different talks, you know, good talks, what to learn a bit more. And in 2013, in Lab Day, I was, I think, sitting right there. It was Catherine Riebeck from MIT was talking about mucus. Really disgusting, but so inspiring. And how she finished her presentation was, you as a scientist should find your own scientific niche. That resonated with me, but I was not really in my scientific niche. During my PhD, what I was doing was understanding genome organization. And this means there is one gene, make a proto-oncogene, that was the only protein coding gene in a 3 megabase window, which is a quarter of a yeast genome. And it had to be regulated in very fine detail, otherwise you would get developmental problems or cancer. So how did these distal elements were actually acting on MYC to give this very precise expression? And throughout the research, it was actually a very fruitful one. We got now highly cited papers out of it in Nature Genetics. And what we found was susceptibility was actually regulated by these regulatory elements. So if you got these risky elements, you're fine. But in certain environmental conditions, then they turn into a phenotype. I really like this idea of environment and gene interaction, but looking at it in a disease context was really not my niche. Because I liked pomegranates, I liked oranges, I liked flowers, I liked farming, and these were almost light years away from this MYC locus. And I went to Helke at that time, and Helke gave me this brilliant advice. Talk to Rüdiger, send an email. So I actually, and this was such a wonderful advice, I wrote to Rüdiger, and the person who entered Rüdiger's office and left was a completely different person, because Rüdiger introduced this new aspect of plant biology to me, to a person who never studied plants before. that is developmental biology. Think about a grass that is growing in between the pavement stones. It snows on it in the freezing winter. It's fine. It is 40 degrees outside. The sun is shining on this plant. It's fine. We step on the plant and it's still fine. And how do these plants make it? They cannot run away from their problems. So they develop new ways of dealing with stress. And one way is developmental plasticity, that they change their developmental trajectory with the environment. So this was just perfect. Gene-environment interaction, you can do it. It's close to pomegranates. So I thought, yes, this is my niche. So I should really work on this. And it turned out to be a very fruitful research that actually in March, we made it to the cover page of Journal of Experimental Botany by finding the link between TOR, a very central environmental sensor, and polycombs, which is a very central developmental regulator. And at the same time, Jan Schinsla from Harvard also documented a mechanistical link between TOR and polycombs. And our further research that originated from Rüdiger's lab actually showed that polycombs are so essential for persistent abiotic stress in plants. Perfect. So I really like plant biology, and we came up with this fantastic hypothesis, and we've got only preliminary data for it, but I'm so excited about this. I would like to share that it looked like the polycombs, these developmental regulators, actually emerged in single cell organisms, most likely regulating the environment's stress responses. But by multicellularization, they acquired a new function, which is the development. But in animals where we can run away from stress, we have got the central nervous system, it was no longer needed for polycombs to change the development, and they lost their environmental sensing function. So this is still a very wild hypothesis, but I just wanted to illustrate you the direction that we are moving in my lab at the moment. Plant research is fun. I really like it. But when I started, it was not fun for completely different reasons. When I left EMBL, I didn't have a visa. Ausländerbehörde told me as a Turkish citizen that I have to leave the country as soon as possible. I actually didn't get a health insurance. My EMBL friends were not here. They found postdocs in different places. And I was transitioning from animal biology to plant biology, and I was not very productive at that time. And I was lucky because I had Rüdiger, who actually personally dealt with most of these bureaucratic problems. And he was very supportive and constructive, even at the times of an unsuccessful period for a new postdoc. I cannot thank him enough for his support, even for this unsuccessful time. And so what happened is, Rüdiger was very helpful, but I still needed something else. And this was theater, just to keep my mental health, stable. So what I did is I just put posters around the campus, and 10 PhD students showed up. And PhD students, very serious, calm people. And one thing with the theater rehearsals is that you work with your emotions. And when I asked people to, say what they think, extreme emotions came out. They were frustrated with their experiments. They were angry with their PIs. They were anxious about their future. They were very happy for a single Western blot band that they saw that day. It was extreme emotions. And thanks to Andrea Gruya, who was at EMBL Theater Club, we channeled these extreme emotions into a theater play. And this was one of the theater plays where Romeo and Juliet in the lab. So it was 2 PhD students. They meet at a conference. They immediately fall in love with each other. But by talking, they find that they are actually competing for the same project. So their PIs do not let them to talk to each other. So it was a theater full of real life lab stories. But it was also, we integrated a lot of science into the stories as well. And Juliet being on the in the audience today. So another play was Lysistrata, this old Greek Lysistrata. And this time Lysistrata was sent into exile because she wanted to attend the ancient Greek mathematics classes, and she was banned basically, just depicting the difficult woman life in a male-dominated world only in ancient Greece. So, and what we were surprised is these events were sold out every single day. And I'm not saying sold out for a few people. It is 300 people in the audience every single day. And then it just got bigger and bigger, and we did other plays. The writers of those plays are also here. Modelers, for example, how the wet lab people have conflict with the computational modelers. This also turned out to be very interesting. And at the end, in 7 years, we had 70 researchers on the stage from 34, 35 different countries. And they performed in 13 different theater plays. We reached out to tens of thousands of people, basically. So it was really amazing. But what I would say is, theater is a very serious business. It is a discipline. And I think the most difficult trick we managed to pull off as a group is to do theater without making it as a burden on PhD students' shoulders, but try to organize it like a sanctuary for keeping their mental stability. And this is very important, not only for the young stage researchers, but after I transitioned from my postdoc to PI, for example, I had contracts renewed every 3 months for 5 times. And it's just crazy. I was literally losing my mind. I was in between, just leaving years of unpublished work behind, or being anxious for getting a new contract. And this is not surprising that the research actually points out that 39 to 46% of the graduate students face severe to moderate to severe mental illnesses. And I could witness myself that theater was really helping. But as an imposter, I was not really trained with theater, so I just learned it by experience. Was I really good enough? And this is when I joined the FameLab Science Communication Competition. This is one of the biggest competition worldwide. And I gave a talk in front of 1,300 people. And I was the German champion. And then I represented Germany in England. I got the 2nd place. And that night, basically, it turned out to be the first and still the only podium ranking for Germany in the science communication competition. So it immediately went to news in Turkey, also in Germany, and many German politicians like Gebauer, for example, shared the news. And eventually I got a call from a journalist from my region in Turkey, asking if he could write science communication articles. I was very excited, but it's a local newspaper. It's small, but I wanted to keep it the quality world class. So I said, there should be peer review in science communication. And I recommend this to every science communicators, because this is how I found the love of my life in Boston. And I got married. This rigged the quality a bit, but but still we published 100 articles together, and it immediately went to the national newspapers. We got an offer to write an article, and I really liked it because it was a COVID time. People needed scientific information. We could reach out to millions of people, but it came with online hate messages. And we were shocked. Basically, we were reading what is good, and the government was doing something right, and we were writing, well, this is good, actually. And then opposition party, they were roasting us. And when we were saying, well, the minister decision is actually wrong, the government supporters were really almost threatening us. So we decided to stop, and we realized that local newspaper or local media is much more effective in changing people's behavior than going nationwide. And one reason for this is, I think in the nationwide science communication storytelling, we are not really transparent. We are not really open with the scientific failures. For example, everywhere you see BioNTech, Moderna, they made an amazing job, that's true, but there were 130 vaccine trials that were unsuccessful. Nobody talked about them. It was swept under the rug. And it's normal that people feel skeptical about constantly successful science. If a cyclist is winning Tour de France 7 times in a row, I would be suspicious if there is something right or wrong. So, and people turn on their news to see who did what wrong that day. People watch romantic comedies to see failed relationships. People, they watch epic failures on YouTube billions of times. And whenever there's a science story coming out, it's another brilliant scientist founding another brilliant thing. Come on, this is so boring. This is not the science. This is not how we can communicate science. We really need to be open. We really need to open space for failures in science to get the trust of the public. So we were looking for ways in Heidelberg how we can do this locally. So we came up with an event format also inspired by Lawrence Krauss when he actually visited Heidelberg. And in this event format, it was a competition, science communication competition. Scientists go on the stage, they give 5-minute talks, and the winner is the person who asked the best question. So we gave Captain Obvious Awards for the most obvious question, obviously. And we gave Sherlock Awards for the most skeptical questions. And people basically, they engaged in the conversation. There were very long discussions on what we did right, what we did wrong. And this was great. And and these events were also completely booked. And now we see that it went far beyond Heidelberg in different cities in Germany and also internationally. This concept is actually being used. And one criticism that we get that day was that all the events were in English. So could we do it differently? Could we eliminate spoken languages? And we came together with 3 dancers from State Opera and Ballet, DJ Mercan Dede, a world famous DJ based in Canada, and Sinan Ikiz, who was the best musician in Sweden in 2017. And we came up with Mosaic Dance Festival, a Mosaic dance performance. This was a dance performance where we told the story of a virus, a human, and a plant, and how they interact with each other. And we showcased this in effective science communication festival. And afterwards, we had a question and answer session. And we could see that people could follow a story without a single word being said. This was fantastic. And then, again, bringing the news to the lab, Rüdiger advised me to, if this is working so well, so why don't you do it a little professionally? So I started going around to different universities in Germany, Heidelberg, Würzburg, Charité in Berlin, in international universities, trying to teach science communication as a freelance science communicator. And what I teach is how to be on the stage, how to be relaxed on the stage, how to answer questions, how to interact with the audience, how to come up with a compelling story. These are things important for scientists in their professional life, as well as delivering their science to the public. So this became like a weekend activity for me that I was trying to go and do this around. But still there is a rejection from the community that I give you in quotation. I work in XYZ Disease Institute. I have no luxury to entertain people like a clown. But this is not entertainment. This is education. And now we are actually running a study together with Hochschuldidaktik Zentrum Baden-Württemberg to investigate if theater is beneficial for the university students' education. There is another pilot study going to start in Deutsch-Amerikanisches Institute downtown about using theater for science education in gymnasiums. And another actually education initiative is we have the first event tomorrow of artificial intelligence education initiative to discuss if you are going to lose your jobs to ChatGPT. So, and another one that I really like, and so many people are helping with this, is after I left EMBL, I got some retirement money. And I bought a land. It was a deserted land. I just wanted to grow wild pomegranates because we are running out of them in the nature. And this turned out, and I thought, well, this is actually a really good place. I'm not going to brag about that it was a very cheap land and now it costs more than €1 million or something. The price is skyrocketed. But this turned into an educational platform for teaching how to do plant breeding, how to understand plant genetics to local people, not to young people, but also to the older people. But it's very difficult to convince people that, well, plant breeding is very interesting. If you do something right, you may get something nice at the end of 10 years. So it is very difficult. What I did is a little bit of inspiration from Toby Gibson as well with the camera. I thought, well, let's turn this into a photography event. So I said, well, if you participate, I'm going to have an exhibition in Heidelberg. So I will take your photos, and people love to be seen by people afar. So they actually joined these trainings. I took these photos. I had an exhibition here, and the exhibition was very successful that it went even 2 months beyond the finissage upon popular demand. So it was like an event that we could basically continue now working. And thanks to Arnold Krebs and Angela's hospitality, now we also started lupin breeding. They offer always very good lupins when we visit them. So there is now a training also for the lupin initiative. And this land is actually now there are 600 trees that it makes enough money to financially sustain itself. So now I'm standing in front of here, and I cannot explain how happy I am to be able to receive this award, because, you know, I wouldn't be able to stand here with these fantastic friends that I acquired at EMBL, fantastic friends that I got to know through theater, and the skills that I acquired at EMBL. And also, it wouldn't be possible without understanding and supportive PIs, scientists like Rüdiger and Helke. And I also wouldn't be able to make it to here with two wonderful women, my mom and my wife. Sizleri çok seviyorum. Teşekkürler. You are, they were always loving, they were always supporting. And when I got the award, I was walking in Weststadt, and I realized I cannot keep my knees anymore. So I had to kneel. I think I was talking to Fátima in the streets of Weststadt, talking like this. And I cannot imagine how much this award actually means to me. And I would like to thank you all for being here. This is really a day that I cannot forget, all these faces. And I really hope that I could explain why this award was presented in this way, presented to me. And I'm very happy for the award as well. It already changed my life in a way that one of the most biggest publishers actually contacted me for agreeing with me to work on a book that I wrote last year. So it is all thanks to this award. It's really making a difference in my life. So thank you very much for being here, sharing this moment with me. Great.